Audio.
Hi, we're Dennis and Denise. We're on a road trip to see some big famous places, as well as some places not so big and famous. At the end of each day, we'll create a 60-second video summary of what we've seen. You can check our Facebook pages each morning for the previous day's video. Our journey began Monday, January 16th at our home near Cincinnati, Ohio. Our first stop was Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we ended our day back in Ohio at Toledo. Our stop in Fort Wayne was to return our grandson Bowden to his home after spending the weekend with us. Dennis worked with him to make a mini baseball bat from cutting down the tree to the finished product. Sunday evening, he went with Denise to see the Bengals beat Buffalo in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. Our drive after leaving Fort Wayne was a rainy one, and arriving in Toledo on a dark, rainy evening reminded me of a John Denver song that begins with the opening line, "Saturday night in Toledo, Ohio is like being nowhere at all." I guess we'll find out tomorrow what Toledo has to offer. See you then. Hi, good morning. We're here on the shores of Lake Erie at Maumee Beach State Park. The rain has stopped. The sun is poking out from behind the clouds. And what do you think of this, Denise?
Well, I think it's going to be a beautiful day. It's about 45 degrees, and I'm going to guess the winds are about 10 miles per hour coming from the southeast. Do they ever come that way?
I don't know. All right. Remember this cast from the television show MASH? Jamie Farr, who played the part of Corporal Klinger, often mentioned he was from Toledo, Ohio, and in 6 episodes, he talked about his favorite restaurant, Tony Paco's. That's where we're headed for lunch today. Back in 1972, the actor Burt Reynolds stopped there. When the restaurant employees asked him for his autograph, he signed a hot dog bun. That started a tradition of famous people, from presidents to athletes, that have signed hot dog buns now on display. We saw buns signed by MASH actor Mike Farrell, former Cincinnati Reds Sparky Anderson, celebrities Gava Gabor and Wayne Newton, and hundreds of other buns lining every available wall space in the restaurant. I ordered the chili mac and cheese, which is a lot like Skyline chili, except with macaroni instead of spaghetti. Denise and I both had hot dogs, which are actually more like sausages. All of the sauces and chili are Hungarian style, so it was a little spicy, but not too spicy. If you're ever in Toledo, you've got to visit Tony Paco's. Tomorrow we're headed across Ohio to Cleveland. Check back and see what we find when we get there. Denise and I arrived in downtown Cleveland, Ohio Tuesday evening, where we checked into the Hyatt Regency at the arcade. The following morning we set off to see First Energy Stadium, where the Browns play football, and Progressive Stadium, where the Guardians play baseball. We admired the city skyline and even met some of the area residents, although they seem to have taken over the decks of this marina. But the main reason we came to Cleveland was to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. At 5 stories high, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame uses thousands of items to take patrons on a historical journey from early blues artists through Elvis, the Beatles, the Stones, metal, punk, and rap. This museum is a must-see for anyone like me who grew up in the 60s and 70s. I especially enjoyed the exhibit of the Doobie Brothers, which I've seen in concert 13 times. As we left the museum, Denise got a little playful inside the letter C. We then got in the car and continued on our next stop at Niagara Falls. We passed through Buffalo, where the Bengals will be playing this weekend. The clouds covering the tops of the buildings made it look a little dreary there. We ended our day with a little more rock and roll, eating at the Hard Rock Cafe. Tomorrow we'll explore the falls and share it with you in our next video. The end of yesterday's video said we'd be traveling to meet America's most famous meteorologist. We could have used a good weather person today because we encountered light snow, but the number of snowplows along the highway with their lights and engines on led us to believe the snow was going to get heavier. However, we never saw more than light flurries except for a lot of snow on the ground as we drove past the ski resorts in Ellicottville, New York. So who is America's most famous meteorologist? Is it Jim Cantore, or Stephanie Abrams from the Weather Channel, or entertainers like Al Roker on television, or Bill Murray from the movies? That last one's a close guess because according to folks in Pennsylvania, this little guy is the most famous meteorologist in America. We traveled to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, the self-anointed weather capital of the world, to find out what we could about Punxsutawney Phil. Phil is everywhere in this community, on t-shirts, banners, and even garbage cans. And on every street corner are statues of Phil dressed as a policeman, a fireman, the Statue of Liberty, a baseball player, holding a rake in front of a hardware store, or wearing glasses in front of an optician's office. To find out more, we went to the Punxsutawney Weather Discovery Center. While there, I got to stand in front of a green screen, and as you can see on the small monitor, it looks like I'm a weatherman. Denise got to act like she was in a tornado. We saw how farmers use their animals' behavior to help predict the weather, and old sayings like "Red at night, sailor's delight," and I learned a new one that said, "When cows stand tall, no rain will fall." For the final word on the weather, we went to see the master himself, Phil. He lives in Philsborough. As you can see, he wasn't much help because he was asleep. But his big day is coming soon, on February 2nd. If he sees his shadow, we have 6 more weeks of winter. Upon leaving Punxsutawney, we traveled through the tunnel at Pittsburgh, saw a Brinks truck on fire that held up traffic for miles, and settled down for the night at Hollywood Casino south of Pittsburgh. Our last video said that today we'll be traveling to see something small and something mysterious. But along the way we discovered 2 very large, unexpected things as we moved through southeastern Ohio. Our initial find concerns the first airship built by the United States. Completed in 1923 at a cost of $2.9 million, the USS Shenandoah was longer than 2 football fields. In 1925 it got caught in a storm and broke into 3 pieces. The front third of the ship fell on this farm. Today, the resultant 14 fatalities and 29 survivors is commemorated in a small park. Our second unexpected discovery was this giant dragline shovel. It had been used for strip mining in southeastern Ohio. It was once attached to the Big Muskie, the largest machine ever built to move on land. The shovel is so big that the local high school marching band could fit inside. With those unexpected discoveries behind us, we arrived at our first destination, McConnellsville, Ohio. McConnellsville is home to America's smallest Kroger store. It's so small I could walk across the width of the store in 8 seconds. The majority of the shopping carts were the small ones. To get through the aisles, you had to coordinate with the other shoppers and sometimes walk sideways. This is their total pharmacy section, their cheese section, and their produce department. They had everything a regular Kroger store has, but less of it. They have a total of 4 checkout lanes, 2 with cashiers, and 2 self-serve. Denise said she really liked the store, and with her purchases, we left the Kroger parking lot and moved on to our next destination. Crossing the Ohio River into West Virginia took us to Point Pleasant, the home of the world's only Mothman Museum. Like the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and Sasquatch, Mothman is an urban legend that's taken on a life of its own. Books and documentaries have been written about him, and a major motion picture was released in 2002 called The Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere. Mothman was first seen in 1966, with more sightings reported shortly after. When the Mothman is sighted more frequently, bad things happen. One of these bad things is the collapse of the Silver Bridge at Point Pleasant, which took the lives of 46 people. A best-selling book called The Mothman Prophecies is about this event, and much of the museum includes bridge artifacts. One interesting thing is that despite a lot of people swearing they've seen the Mothman, there isn't much agreement on what he actually looks like. But don't share that with the locals. Point Pleasant's annual Mothman Festival brings 10,000 people to this community of 4,000. So whether you believe in the Mothman or not, he's big business for this community. We arrived in Portsmouth, Ohio yesterday evening after driving in the sun for the first time in over a week. We went to the Portsmouth Brewing Company for a late dinner. Denise tried their 5-sample flight of beer and loved the way it was presented. Today our plan was to go to Serpent Mound in Adams County. Serpent Mound is a 1,348-foot long, 3-foot high effigy mound made by the Adena Indians over 1,000 years ago. Before leaving, we checked the weather report. We heard Cincinnati was experiencing heavy snow. Upon checking our home security cameras over the internet, we could tell quite a bit of snow was falling there, but we had not seen any in Portsmouth. So we decided to stick with our plan and head for Serpent Mound. However, when we got there, it was closed. They were supposed to be operating in winter hours, but apparently the threat of snow caused them to not open for the day. So at this point, we headed for home to close the loop of our road trip. As expected, our long, steep driveway was covered with snow, but with the help of our tractor, I had it cleared quickly so we could drive up the hill to the house. The data for our road trip is that we were gone 7 days, we stayed at 5 hotels, drove 1,217 miles, and we visited 12 sites, including the Maumee Bay State Park in Toledo, Tony Pacco's Restaurant, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Niagara Falls, Puxatawny Phil, Hollywood Casino of Pittsburgh, the crash site of the USS Shenandoah, the world's largest dragline shovel, America's smallest Kroger, Mothman Museum, Portsmouth Brewing Company, and Serpent Mound. Thank you for joining us on our road trip and your feedback on Facebook. If you enjoyed the videos, watch for an announcement about a 6,000-mile, year-long journey we'll be embarking on this fall.